From the habitation to the house, a place we start with lights from low. The chicks start jazzing with get fresh flow. Pulling out chops to jam with handouts to the table to the microphone. Bottles of music, just clap your hands, just clap your hands. And welcome back to Dr. Drill's Making Motivation podcast, where it is our mission to honor interesting and authentic people, to tell their stories, to put some smiles on faces, and hopefully a little fire under the asses of the masses. My friends, today is April 9th, 2024, and I've got with me another one of my 1-6 brothers from Charlie 1-6, 2nd Platoon. I give you Erik Watson. Good afternoon, Erik.
Good afternoon, sir. Semper Fi.
Semper Fi, brother. So you see to the viewer, we've got the flag raising on Mount Suribachi, playing a little homage to that in the background. Nice little sunset or sunrise, whatever you got there. It's Iwo Jima Memorial, Washington, D.C. So before us, we've got another United States Marine, and just a little attention getter. When I first arrived at Charlie Company, 1st Battalion, 6th Marines in 1993, one of the first Marines that I met was Erik Watson. And I remember him as a very squared away Marine. And he was one that we could look to for guidance. All the young guys that were showing up, I guess they'd probably dropped maybe 50, perhaps 100 of us from the School of Infantry right in the lap of this unit. And so Watson was one of the guys who was tasked with breaking us in and showing us the ropes and extrapolating our schooling in SOI to the Fleet Marine Force, the grunts. So, Erik, tell us your Marine Corps story. Why did you decide to join the Corps? And what motivates you about the entire experience?
I wanted to join the Corps at a fairly young age. When I was in junior high and high school, I always had Marine Corps posters on my walls. My locker at school. I was in the marching band in high school, and in my little cubby area, I had little, Marine Corps pictures up and stuff like that. It was just something not too many people, I guess, either dared or tried to experience. It's a very small brotherhood. I really appreciate the leadership and the camaraderie that you get in the Marine Corps. Oh, you're done? Okay, thank you for that, buddy.
What's up, brother?
That was my son Noah there. He wanted to say hello.
Yes. I was just talking to Erik prior to going live here. I was honored to do a chainsaw carving for the Watsons, and brought it up, and it resides in his garden. And I got to meet his son Noah and his wife. Forgive me, what's your wife's name?
Rebecca. Yeah,
very, very nice family you got there. And so it was an honor to carve that for you guys. And so there was Noah. Now he's sprouted up quite a bit, huh?
He just turned 8 on Saturday. He's growing way too fast. Yeah, I wish time would slow down so I can appreciate more of these days.
Serious, dude. Serious. I remember my kids were that age. Now they're 15, 16. And so as our elders and betters always said, it happens quick, right? And they weren't kidding, man.
And you ignored it back then, and now you realize how fast it really goes by.
Yeah. So, yeah, I know you're enjoying it, though. I see all the pictures, so that's great. So yeah, same deal, man. Inspired by, Marine Corps isms, stories of valor, all the cinematic portrayals. You have any cinematic portrayals? Did that play any role, like watching the Rambos and the Chuck Norrises and the Sands of Iwo Jima and all that stuff?
cinematic portrayals. I really like the movie Full Metal Jacket. As far as the boot camp scenes, because that brings a lot of stuff back. I mean, obviously not the last part, and when they're in the head and stuff like that. But when Gunny Hartman's doing his spiel and then getting into the recruits, that brings a smile onto my face now, especially when, I'm sure Rebecca will see this, but sometimes I'll let Noah watch some of those parts, and he's like, "Holy smokes, they really yell at you like that." I'm like, "Yeah, that's pretty much a pretty true story with that."
Yeah, they capture it pretty well, I thought, man.
And then with Rambo, that came out when I was younger, the first one, and we all ran around with our camouflage pants on, as preteens and teenagers, with our make-the-tent survival knife, playing manhunt in the woods and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, the survival knife. You get the little compass on the top.
Yeah. And the fishing line. I got the fishing line. I got a hook. Let's do some fishing. We're not catching anything in a polluted stream that's swimming by on Long Island.
Yeah, that's right. You're from Long Island.
It was a cool experience.
Very much so. Very much so. So you decide so you grew up in Long Island.
Yes.
And you're in high school. You decide at what point. You said in your teens you decided this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I brought my mom to the recruiting station when I was 17, and said, "You're either going to sign me in," because she was a single parent, or I'm going to sign myself in when I turn 18. So lo and behold, when I turned 17, she signed me in, and I was in a delayed entry program from September of '90 until I graduated in '91, and then I had the summer at home, and I reported the boot camp. And turned 18 while I was in Parris Island, which was a fun experience.
What battalion were you in down there? You remember?
I was in 2nd Battalion.
2nd Battalion. That's cool. So that's a Green.
A lot of the Marines from 3rd Battalion would give me grief saying I was the hardcore battalion, but I think they were all pretty equally as hard,
Yeah. It's funny how they all have their little thing.
Yeah.
You guys are way out in the woods. Yeah. 2nd Battalion.
Yep.
That's cool. So you remember in the boot camp experiences? What was your any vivid memories from boot camp? Drill instructors. How about this? Let me ask you this: what given that you were already enthused going into it, did you have at any moment were you truly ever frightened or traumatized by the experience, or did you kind of feel like?
I don't know about frightened or traumatized, but it was, the recruiters only tell you so much. So when you finally go into processing and you check in, and that's all, it seems kind of mellow. And then that day comes when you meet your real drill instructors for the first time. That was kind of shocking.
Very much.
I remember my one drill instructor, Sergeant Nouse. He was kind of, I guess you would call the heavy. He had a pretty thick New York accent, so he was kind of, it made me feel a little bit more comfortable. I believe he was from Queens.
Yeah. So giving you special treatment?
No, definitely not.
So then the schooling and all that, you graduate. What time of year did you graduate? Remember?
November.
Okay.
Which was nice because we had an extended couple of days leave after boot camp because it fell around the Thanksgiving Day holiday, and then I had to report to Camp Geiger.
MCT, SOI, all that stuff.
Yeah. That was good fun. I never knew North Carolina can get shockingly cold at that time of year.
Oh, big time, man. And remember that, Geiger Tigers. You remember that term?
No.
Geiger Tigers. Like, yeah, you're just a Geiger Tiger. Somebody used that the other day. Brought back some memories. But remember that strip of like ramshackle dwellings, not that they're like bars and stuff right along the road there as you would leave the various names and incarnations of I don't know what they were, greasy spoons, watering holes, or whatever. It was a whole
definitely the local watering holes.
Yes. In the infrastructure, I think they cleaned a lot of that up, but I'm sure there's still some nastiness along that road. But so you get out to the fleet and you arrive at 1st Battalion, 6th Marines. What was that like?
That was kind of that was an experience. A lot of the Marines in that unit were still coming back. They were, I think, coming back from CAX at that point. They were out in 29 Palms, and a lot of them were veterans of Kuwait and stuff like that. So they were a little bit, I guess kind of hard. I remember one of the Marines that I looked up to very much was Philip Hawkins. He was in my platoon in second platoon Charlie Company. I remember, we were doing some PT. I think we were playing some football. I might have got a little overly aggressive trying to show off, maybe, being the young guy trying to be like, look, I can do this. And then we were out, and I think the next day or two later, we were out in the field doing something. And I remember getting a pretty good pink belly experience.
Yeah, breaking in there.
I remember that vividly. I had a lot of pink prints on my belly.
Yeah, that was pretty. I mean, I guess it could be crueler and unusual there, but that seemed to be the standard hazing ritual at 1-6.
Yes, it was welcoming. I mean, I was kind of shocked at first. I wasn't quite sure what was happening, and all of a sudden I'm getting splayed out on the ground, and everybody's rolling my shirt up and pouring a canteen of water over my stomach and start smacking away. But it was, I guess I felt more welcomed after that. Some attitude changed a little bit after that had happened. But I was still the boot or shower shoe, however you want to call it, because I didn't go on my first deployment yet.
Yeah. So these guys, Hawkins, I don't remember that name.
He might have been out. I think he got out probably around 92, probably right before you guys started processing in. He was checking out.
Yeah. That's an interesting thing. It's like, I remember showing up or getting in the Corps and everybody's like, yeah, before you got here, we did this, this is our weaponry then. And before you guys, we went to this place, we deployed over there, and we could wear jungle boots. And now you see some folks of the old salty camis and stuff like that. You knew that they were, but I mean, yeah, you knew they were salty, that they'd done some things, you know what I mean? And now it's 30 years later, and we're legitimately old Corps. We're finally old Corps.
Yeah, it's drastically changed. The uniform, the equipment. They're training with scopes. They have M4s.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even imagine, like, with all the things that actually I dug up a picture of you holding some your rifle, and it looked probably some ANPVS something or other. It was a case.
Oh, it was the night vision. I think they were night vision goggles.
Yeah. I mean, that sort of stuff, it's like you wanted to mess around with the gear, right? But then if you got to be responsible for it, and God forbid you lose. I remember there was a couple occasions, I'm sure you remember some occasions where somebody lost their rifle or misplaced their nods or whatever. And it's for all hell breaks friggin' loose. I think I had a nightmare the other day about something like that, to that effect, where I had lost something. Remember that? Like you're over doing whatever, shooting the shit with your buddies, and you're like, "Where's my rifle?" And then you're
panic.
Yes, it's a terrible, terrible feeling, as it should be.
Yeah, oh yeah, makes you turn pale real quick.
As it should be. But it just interests me that there's these cycles of Marines that come in, and the names, this is a 4-year period. Sometimes. When I think about, like, if I'm interviewing some of the guys who actually did stay in a little bit longer than us, I imagine, like, man, they probably thinking, here's a typical friggin' one enlistment guy with these crazy vivid memories, and they did that times 4 or 5 or whatever the case may be. Yeah. But there's still a healthy fraction of our lives that we devoted to this purpose, and it was a pretty special thing. So tell me a little bit more about you get there. You got some leadership. You're the new guy, and you guys typically will work up for deployments. What kind of training did you do?
I guess I can say I was lucky enough to be in a Charlie Company was a helicopter company for the next deployment we were working up for. So we did a lot of training with fast roping and rappelling, which was nice. The helicopters were always, the way to go. I trained a few times with the Amtraks, and I forget what they call them, but it's literally puddles of vomit that are floating on the bottom sometimes when you actually get out of the ship, which is kind of exciting, and running through that when the gate opens and you get on the beach. But the helicopters were great. We trained, I guess it was for like trap and sparrowhawk missions we were ultimately training for over when we deployed over to the Med. I guess I'll still call it Yugoslavia when all that stuff was going on. So we were always training to work up for that. I was a little bit jealous of a few of my buddies that were, I think, in Bravo, because they were really excellent swimmers, you know. So I guess some of them were I forget what they would do, but they were maybe with rafts or something like that, going up on a beach or something, which was pretty cool. But I wouldn't give up the experience of being in the helicopters for any of it.
Yeah, helicopters are cool.
Well,
yeah, Bravo, I think was, if my memory serves me correctly, they were
the scout swimmers, I believe.
Yeah, they had the rubber boats.
Yes, yeah.
Which seems cool, but I bet you when it's freezing freaking cold, that's not cool.
Not cool. Yeah, those things are heavy.
Yeah, but it's a different world. Yeah, and then we had it my entire enlistment was Amtrak's, but I do remember you saying, I believe that prior to our arrival, we were the helicopter battalion.
Yes,
but we did some work with helos. But yeah, I agree, they're great. The Amtrak's were, I think about, you know, they just didn't seem seaworthy. They were quite an experience, but helicopters could fall out of the sky, God forbid, too, you know?
Oh, yeah. That was one of my, it's a memory, but it kind of shook us all up during our first deployment because I forget which, they could have been the 53s or the 46s, but we were somewhere off the coast of the Canary Islands going south, I believe, and a few of them ended up crashing in the water. And we all had a call to come up on deck with our, night vision goggles and stuff like that to, to see if we see anything floating.
Did they were recovered and everybody okay, or?
No. There was, I don't believe any of the pilots or crew made it.
Oh, it's terrible. That's terrible.
It was like a real foggy night, and I guess they were closer to the water than they thought they were, and then I think they banked and the rotors got caught in the water.
Oof. Scariness. Very scary. So that you went on the deployment when you went on deployment on the Ponce with my guys, so that would have been your second deployment. So tell me about your first deployment. What kind of places did you visit, and what was the training like? What was the libo like?
Our first deployment?
Yeah.
We visited some pretty cool spots. I mean, the first place you hit was Rota, which was really just more like refueling and resupplying. But once you get into the Med, it was kind of rough at that point. We did go to the Adriatic a few times, and we went down towards the coast of Africa. That's how we ended up by the Canary Islands. And I remember seeing some salty chiefs, like almost salivating, knowing we were all going to be shellbacked at one point, but we all got turned back around before the equator. Okay, get the ball, buddy. Oh, you can get another ball. I'm sorry. We have a crisis here. His ball is stuck in the lavender plants.
Jeez.
But the training up to it, like I said, we did a lot of fast roping, a lot of rappelling. I don't recall too much range time. We all had the BFAs and the blanks, just doing stuff like that. A lot of navigation. I remember. Wow, it's kind of hard to recall a lot of stuff from 30 years ago, leading up to that.
How about in the top right there, Eric? You see the top right image there that I pirated from you? This is you. Looks like you on a flight deck.
Oh, is that a Harrier behind me?
I think so, man. Looks like you guys must have been shooting off the back of the.
That was when I was with MSPF.
So explain what that is, because I remember the term. You just explained it to me, but for the listener, what is that all about?
That was a maritime special purpose force, and that was a really, really good experience. Our platoon, I guess, leader sergeant was Christopher Harris, who retired as a. Okay, buddy, I can't get it right now. I told you. And we did a lot of CQB. We ended up being on helicopters again, which was a blessing for me because I knew when prior to the second deployment, we were working up with the tracks, and when they were like, "Oh, you're going here," I was like kind of skeptical at first, and then when I found out what we were doing, I was like, "Oh, helicopters again. This is dandy." So we did a lot of stuff like that. We learned a lot about CQB, which is close quarters combat, I believe. If people that are listening that aren't familiar with that term, learned a lot of stuff from I'll call him Sergeant Alan Ward and Staff Sergeant Chris Harris. They were our leaders. Corporal Connolly, Corporal Holiday. It was pretty much 2 squads, a couple of fire teams in each squad. But I guess the primary thing is we would, a lot of the things we did were scout sniper initiated. It was a pretty cool time, pretty high speed.
Yeah, that
and
sounds
we
like
did a lot more shooting then than probably I ever did prior to the second deployment.
Right. Yeah, it seems like something's pretty special. So that's what's happening here. Then I can imagine there's silhouettes at the end of the like off the fantail there, and you guys must be doing some sort of quick action drills or something like that.
Oh yeah, the one guy next to me is he was our corpsman, Doc Holder. I still keep in touch with him. He retired as the Master Chief. He's been driving around the country, visiting a lot of people that he served with. So it was pretty cool. I was able to get 2 visits from him.
That's cool.
And then the guy to the right of me was Corporal Slasher, and then Corporal Connolly, and then I believe it's Corporal Ricky and Corporal Holiday.
Now Connolly, that name rings a bell. Was he?
He might have stayed in after I got out. I know he was probably a year or 2 senior to me. I know he lives in Ohio. He's I think a state trooper right now. So you might have seen him pop up online a few times.
Did he come from MSG duty or something like that?
What's that?
Did he come from Marine Security Guard duty?
I think so.
I think I remember him. Good guy. So
yeah, he was also in 2nd Platoon Charlie Company with me before they took a few of us out from each platoon.
So they pull you guys from Charlie Company 2nd Platoon to do the MSPF.
Yep. I don't know how they pulled them. I think they just pulled random names, maybe like a lottery or something, because it was just a mishmash of different Marines going to the platoon.
Yeah. So then when we went out on training ops, you guys were separate and distinct? You were with MSPF or you couldn't?
Yeah. Yes, you can take your shirt off, buddy. Show off your muscles. Yeah, we did a lot of training. I mean, a lot of it was with State Platoon. Not too much, obviously. They were high speed on their own levels, so they did a lot more stuff that I would never understand. So we're trained with a few with reconnaissance. I guess our main task was to form a bubble around them if we were patrolling, to going to wherever we were going.
Yeah, really cool. So then you're out on that first. Let's talk about that first pump. You did say you did some cool training. You went to the Adriatic. How about some of the ports and things that you went to, or some of the cool places you visit?
Well, the coolest place was probably, I might have mentioned earlier, was Trieste on the first deployment I believe we were at. And when you're on sea for a while, you kind of, when your legal age over in Europe, which is I believe 18, which could be a little scary, I guess, for a Marine coming off the boat, or exciting depending on how you look at it. So we probably invited a little too much, but then I guess we decided to honor our country by jumping on a table and singing the Star Spangled Banner. I believe I remember the name of the bar was called McCackey's, which was not too far from the port, so it was a pretty easy walk to get back to the ship. Fortunately,
that's ideal. That's ideal.
So it was good fun. Haifa, that was another good port to call. Haifa was fun. Naples. I remember being in Naples a little bit.
It's pretty crazy when I think about a port like Haifa. You gotta go on a little patrol.
I have to go save my son's ball real quick.
Oh yeah. This could be good.
That's the beauty of having having these phones now. I don't know why he's afraid of the lavender. There's really nothing in here right now other than rats and a baby rabbit. Here's your ball, buddy. Thank you. You're welcome. You have fun. He's getting more and more into soccer every day, which is a sport I understand, so it makes me happy.
Did you play soccer growing up?
I played soccer growing up, yes.
Yeah.
I would like to get into coaching one day if he gets into it a little bit more. But he keeps asking me questions about Ronaldo and Messi and Neymar and all these people. I really don't know who they are other than winning this World Cup in Argentina, but I don't keep up with a lot of the names right now.
Did you see the show? My wife wants me to watch it. The hell's the name of it? It's about a soccer coach, but the guy, I guess he didn't have any qualifications for the job. What the hell's the name of this friggin' show? But it was I don't know what to tell you qualified as. It was very funny. It was a very interesting show. And yeah, it had a lot of good friggin'. I'm looking it up right now. Of course, I can't find it. Anyway, I don't know shit about soccer, man. When I was in grad school. Oh, wait a second. I see it. When I was in grad school, I played on a friggin' just like a friggin' hobby team or whatever, a bunch of my fellow students. So they were all fast movers, and I was always a little bit of a bigger guy. So they put my ass on defense. It was still, I'm like, man, some of these folks that can just haul ass and just run forever and just kind of zigzag around. I was never that guy, but
a lot of them run like gazelles.
Yeah. But yeah, that's good shit. So, all right, back to the Marine Corps stuff. So Trieste sounds like a cool spot. Good training you're doing.
Trieste was good fun. There was a couple of ports that I hit in France. Torremolinos was pretty cool. Or Toulon, I believe.
I remember that. Yeah.
I know
I was going to ask you. When you consider some of these ports now, and that like are going through the Straits of Gibraltar and all that stuff. Well, a couple things. Firstly, like Haifa, that's Israel, obviously, and I remember getting a very special libo brief when we pulled into there because of things were relatively calm, but there's always had to be a contingency plan. But I remember I took a bus trip to Bethlehem, and we went to some diamond polishing factory and did some cool stuff and went to the Wailing Wall. And how do you feel now that part of the world is like once again on fire, and that how must it be for a Marine, or when we pulled into the Black Sea, we pulled into Odessa, now that there's all kinds of hell breaking loose in you see shit like that.
I hate to say it, I'm not too terribly shocked. It almost seems like a lot of things on a repetitive cycle.
Yeah.
That's my honest opinion. I don't think there's ever, truly going to be a true peace. We hear some stories about how, they're trying to do some ceasefires and some agreements and this and that, but it's conflicts that's been going on for generations, and I don't know if it's ever going to be truly resolved. And Russia, the whole thing with Ukraine and all that, I think Putin just has a big chip on his shoulder. It's kind of hard to say, with our history, we're not trying to claim other territories, that might have been part of ours at one point. It's hard to formulate the words that I want to say.
No, I understand. I think I get it. I mean, one of the things that I ponder a lot is that as a Marine, one of the coolest things that I remember, especially now, I think it's a beautiful thing just to be part of a cohesive unit, and everybody knows their job, and we're going to go in and do this thing. And it's I think that part of the dumb Marine stereotype is about just a singular focus on mission.
Yes.
Like the other things are beyond our scope. Like the bigger picture, we don't, the politics of it, we don't give it any thought because we have a job to do. But I also feel because we were in that position and, thankfully we didn't have to go off, and even though we trained hard and were prepared for that contingency, I would be highly pissed if, as a young Marine today, if I had they're young again. This is why young men, this is why the military is populated by young people, specifically young men, because we don't have no qualms with going off and doing shit like that. We want to full of piss and vinegar. But I mean, it's a shame that you, as an adult and as a parent, right? You're like, hey, it'd be nice if there was peace in the world, and all these headlines. So,
especially having a young son, it always puts the thought in the back of your mind. It's like when I first got in, it was still, granted, the first Persian Gulf was over, and they would say, look at this sand, you're going to be marching in this sand in several months, over, in Iraq or Kuwait. And then you're always training, learning about Soviet weapons and stuff like that, because it was still technically, we were still, I believe, in the Cold War until about 91, 92. And things kind of, I believe, not stopped totally, but it was more of a peaceful relation, once, what was his name? I can't remember the dude, the Russian president who had that birthmark on his head. Yes. And then, kind of
Gorbachev
gave countries their independence that they, believed that they had absorbed before then, when they were, communists, let's go take this country, that country, this country, that country. And now, I just hope it's not just a repeat of Putin trying to, we're going to take, let's try to take Ukraine back. Let's try to get Poland back. Let's try to get, Yugoslavia. And, I just hope that, down the road, when he's of age, when I was more of a, gung-ho spirit when I was 16, 17 years old, I hope there's just more peaceful relations amongst the countries, and they can learn, we can do, civil trade amongst each other, and, you don't have to take over this country just to prove myself.
Yeah. I remember when I was a little guy, and even in the Marine Corps day, I guess on some level, I always thought, I hope that there was somebody on a level like way above our pay grade that just was going to make sure everything was going to be okay.
Yeah.
And we were so fucking wrong, bro.
Yeah.
We were so wrong, assuming that even some of the stuff, like even staff NCOs, and we looked at them as gods, and they had so much more experience, and they were seemed so worldly, and they were fucked up too, man. They didn't all have it fake. They weren't fucked up. They didn't have it all figured out.
Yeah.
Nor could anyone. But I what I'm saying is, I feel like it was comfort. One of the things that always comforted me in all of the potential, terrible situations that we could be purposed for, is that our brothers,
Yes.
Like, it's like, I don't care what happens, you and me are going home, sort of thing. You know what I mean? So like, that's so who were some of your tightest bros while you were in?
When I first got in, one of my tighter brothers was Shane Whitford, who ended up going to Bravo Company, and I went to Charlie, but we were still tight a little bit after SOI and stuff like that. He used to hit the beach a lot, do a lot of skimboarding. It was just bizarre. He was from, I think, Saranac Lake up in New York State, but he never really saw the ocean until he got, stationed down in Camp Lejeune, and we go to Onslow Beach all the time. Another good tight buddy of mine was Matt Allison, who made the time a lot more, I guess, sane, a lot more, enjoyable. Not that it wasn't enjoyable at the time, but we had a lot of good times. Me, myself, Matt, Rob Soberano, a couple other Marines, Rob Pavone, who's down in Florida now, excellent artist. Jeff Bouchard, which I haven't heard from him since I got out, but he made times a lot easier and a lot more mellow and enjoyable. I mean, we were the whole platoon itself. We were all brothers, but you always had brothers that you were tighter with at that point.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing too. And I one of my like as I mentioned earlier to you, Pudge Williamson and Eric Rumpler and a handful of other guys, we all went to boot camp together and went through the whole experience. And so that obviously leaves you with a strong bond, and then you arrive at the fleet. So there are folks that are through the whole thing together. And then in between that, you run into other people. And like you said, it's a great feeling to have, even if you don't, even the person that you like the least in the unit,
Oh yeah.
It's cool that there is an expectation, there's an understanding, and there's an unwritten rule that you are taking care of your own and you're part of something. And I think that, man, if that could be extrapolated to some of the nonsense that you hear and you feel around me, like a disconnect, all the us against them and all that shit. I loved that, looking back, I'm like, man, black, white, rich, poor.
We all had every 1-6. That's what it came down to.
Yeah. And I think that anybody who's experienced that, they feel the same way. And they're like, they see through some of the bullshit that is kind of like the joke on our society, that we should be, we should be more like that. I don't know how that would be possible, but it seems like everything is so divisive, broken up into little camps of like political and socioeconomic and all that stuff. It was definitely a luxury or not so much of a luxury. It was a predicament we were in, right? You spend some time in a fighting hole with somebody, you tend to, hear everything about the girl who just broke up with you to the, what family life is like back on the island or whatever, but
you get tight with a lot of different people.
Yeah.
A lot of different backgrounds. Very colorful. It was a good experience. It's something that, maybe if more people would experience that now, maybe not so much the military experience, but go through something that puts you into a tight unit where everybody's got each other's back, regardless of religion, color, creed, whatever. And without the social media, which I think probably hurts a lot of impressionable minds.
It does. I wonder if there's a way that it could be, altered, and because that's obviously the best way to connect with people.
Oh yeah, it's got its pros. It's definitely got its pros. I would have missed out on a lot of connections if it wasn't for Facebook or Instagram and stuff like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. I wouldn't have known.
So it is a blessing.
Yeah, and so what's cool about this podcast, since I started doing it, is that I've been talking to anybody who would give me the time from 1-6, and there's a reconnection. So guys are going to watch our conversation and be like, I'll tag you in it or whatever, and guys will see it and they'll be like, "Oh, Watson, hey, look, he seems like he's doing good. Good to hear him. I haven't heard that voice in a while." So there's been a lot of that, and I think that with 30 years after the fact, a lot of the guys are like, they need that. We need to be reminded of that strong connection, and see some familiar faces, and I think it's therapeutic, and so maybe it'll result in some stronger bonds and to revisit.
So.
Yeah,
definitely hope so.
Yeah. So, what are some lessons, Watson, that you remember? Some you can tell it in terms by way of a story, or just some Marine Corps isms, some memories from back in the day that stay with you, and like there's a teachable moment, a lesson that you use every day.
One thing that stands out is, like it's not like with leadership and stuff, like a lot of, in a few moments now, instead of, you have a lot of people that'll try to tell you how to do something without showing you how to do it, and then expect you to do it, 100%. What I've learned there in the Marines is, I had a lot of good leaders that they'd show you how to do something, and with the muscle memory, repetitive, you get good at it. and there was a few instances that I carried over with me where I worked. It's you get a few. I work in a lab. I'm a needle pusher at a hospital. Spread a lot of joy, one needle at a time. Make a lot of patients happy when they see me at 5 in the morning. Come on this side. You get a lot of, we have a lot of students that come in now that are kind of looking up to you to see how you're doing things, see how you work with the patient, and I'm constantly, they're asking me, like, before we go into a patient's room, I'm like, just come in and just watch what I'm doing. I want to show you what I'm doing. And then I'm going to show you a few times. And then when they get to the actual patient and do the real experience, they're like, wow, that was so much smoother. I really appreciate that. And that's one thing I got from the Marines. That and just, ultimately respect for somebody else. You never know what kind of shoes somebody walked in prior to, to you really learn their story. So I don't try not to look down on anybody. Well, we'll get your ball in a few moments, buddy. I'm sorry. Did the evil lavender eat it again? Yeah. I'm sorry. The lavender, we'll make the lavender pay in a moment, okay? A bee's not going to pump out. And I mean, keeping myself in somewhat of a shape, I don't do any type of hardcore PT that we used to do. We're not going on, 20-mile humps and stuff like that. But I like to go out. I find most of my peace is in the woods. Ironically, when I got out, I was like, I'm never going to go in the woods again, and then months later, I'm out camping, doing 10-mile treks up in the Catskills and Adirondacks and finding the most peace.
Yeah. That's one thing I wanted to ask you about, man, because I saw some of that, that's you do camping and hiking and stuff still. And I'm going to Utah in October. You ever been out to Zion?
No. Last September, I was out in Rocky Mountain National Park with a buddy of mine celebrating our 50th birthdays.
Awesome.
Which was cool. Oh, it was good.
I never
good
been out
hiking out there. Good camping. The Rocky Mountains are very special. Zion is actually one of the places on my bucket list to check out.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I do a lot of camping up in the Catskills and the Adirondacks. Just being a New Yorker, I like to drive. I get a taste of home, getting a breakfast sandwich from there and stuff like that, which is always nice. But going out to different places, like my wife and I know we go out to the Northwest a lot. Did a lot of, some hiking out there. We have family out in Seattle. But a lot of the places in between here and there, I would love to check out.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy how we've been to some of these places across the world, but there's a lot of spots even within the, the United States that we'd like to visit like that. That's why I'm doing that. I've never been to the big parks and stuff. I went to Acadia. That was awesome. But I want to see Yellowstone. I want to see friggin' Utah, the Grand Tetons, all that shit. I want to hike all that. So and try to get that.
It's special out there.
Yeah. So I'm excited.
Colorado. If you ever get a chance to hit Colorado, I would recommend that. There was some good stuff out there. Good hiking.
Yeah, I never done that. So
it's nice, all of a sudden, like here in Pennsylvania, the mountains, 2,000 feet maybe. You're up there. You have to actually, you feel it a little bit because you're at like 10,000 feet.
Yeah, I can only imagine, dude. That sounds awesome.
Like, wow, I know I just turned 50, but I'm walking a little slower here, and you realize you see one of the trail marker signs. Yeah, you're at 9,000 something feet, and you're like,
yeah, that's one of the. I agree with the staying in shape thing. That's one of the realizations and things that I take away from, the service is that, man, we got to stay gritty. We got to stay strong and stay lean, man. I've always been a little bit of a meathead, but I've taken measures to significantly reduce my weight. I'm like 30 pounds down in the new year. So, and I started running a little bit. It's like, shit, man, you gotta keep on going, man. Motion is lotion.
I haven't got back into that as running. My son's like, oh, you run fast. I'm like, no, I only run if somebody's chasing me with a knife now. And then I might still just turn around and fight because I'm not much of a runner. I'll hike all day. I'll walk till I fall down. But running, I for some reason, I haven't been able to get back into that in a while.
Yeah. Oh, I ain't hauling ass, believe me, but I just remember those days, working on that 300 PFT and all that shit, trying to cover some ground, and we ran everywhere. So still try to keep some, but a hike is fine. A nice clip and a hike and some decent scenery. That'd be a beautiful thing. So all right, man. Well, I'll let you get that ball out of the lavender tree there, Watson. I'm going to ask you one thing before you leave. What motivates you these days, and what does Semper Fidelis mean to you?
What motivates me these days? My family, my wife, my son. They motivate me each and every day. Semper Fi. What does that to me? I'm like a loyal dog. I'm most loyal to my family, my tight friends. Friends that I served with. Anybody can call me back at any time. I'd be there in a heartbeat.
Yeah, that's the right way to be, my brother. All right. Well, Semper Fi to you there, Eric. I want you to enjoy the rest of this beautiful day, and say hi to the missus.
Will do. Thank you so much.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate your time.
Have a